Welcome to the Combat Sports in Africa podcast. Our guest is Dr. Degineh, a lifelong martial artist with a sixth dan in jiu-jitsu and a pioneer in jiu-jitsu development in Africa, as well as in Ethiopia, and a supporter of the sport worldwide. Joining us from Berlin. How are you doing, sir?
Thank you very much. I'm just doing fine, Gamami. It is a great pleasure to be with you.
Same here. I'm looking forward to this interview here. I have a bunch of questions to ask you, sir. First and foremost, what did you think of the Ethiopian team's performance at the 2022 African Jujitsu Championships, which were held in Luanda, Angola?
Oh, thank you very much for the question. I think the performance was good. Because our team has to deal with the corona pandemic and also the situation in Ethiopia, was not able to train for a long time. Yared got bronze medal and I a silver medal, which is also another achievement for us. I would like to take the opportunity and to thank our coach, Colin Stewart, for his tireless support in getting the team in good shape and spirit.
Yeah, he's done a remarkable job along with the athletes and competitors. Actually, the second question I have for you now is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, BJJ, seems to be really growing in popularity in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. How do you think the addition of this newaza-focused grappling sport will impact the local and national martial arts community?
I think, BJJ is a kind of jiu-jitsu style, which is characterized by coolness. It is a new trend and agility, and so on. We are constantly receiving requests from interested persons. In the coming days, Colin and Yared will go to the capital of Sidama region, Awasa. And we'll also offer BJJ course. We are just expanding BJJ to another regional states. The scope and appeal of the sport is grappling is increasing in one hand, as you said, but in other hand, it is challenging due to lack of coach, lack of tatami, and lack of other equipments also.
Very interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned that it's a cool and trendy sport. The BJJ certainly is. It's I think martial arts wise, it seems like on the recreational side, it's one of the most popular grappling arts. I mean, definitely here in North America, it's extremely popular, and it's interesting to see its popularity now in Addis Ababa, which is the capital city of Ethiopia, for those who don't know, and now it expanding potentially, outside of the city. Now, I have a few questions here in regards to this. Is a common sort of question I think we get is there's different styles of jiu-jitsu, as you know, right? Both in terms of like competition rules and actual traditions and styles and so on. Can you give us a brief overview from your perspective of the different international jiu-jitsu sporting organizations and how they differ from each other?
Yes, I mean, there are different styles, as you said, but the styles of examination and the styles of school, that all work with the same elements, all have the same elements: locks, throw, sweeps, kicks, and punches, and it's always so, it's depend upon the difference and the examination rule and the competition rules. That is sometimes the basement of one federation or a kind of organization. We can take, for example, judo. It is the same as training in judo, and the competition in judo is different. Some of the techniques can lead to disqualification,
Right.
which means others that is perfectly allowed, the judo techniques in BJJ, newaza, in jiujitsu, and so on. So when we coming to organization, there is only one international Jujitsu Federation, Jujitsu International Federation, that recognized by the World Games under the umbrella of IOC. The Global Association of International Sport Federation is also recognized in Jiu-Jitsu International Federation, and Jiu-Jitsu International Federation is also a signatory of the UN Sport for Climate, for the WADA, and also to other recognized organizations. But we have also other small competing organizations. I don't want to mention their name. They are doing their job as long as they bring good athletes, but they are competing the JJF in this sense. But as far as I know, they have no recognition from under the umbrella of IOC.
Can you give us, when we look at the continent of Africa and jiu-jitsu sports development, can you give us kind of like a brief overview? Sorry, I know this is a tough question, but because Africa is massive, right? Can you give us a brief overview of jiu-jitsu's popularity and participation rate in Africa?
In Africa, the sister sport judo is very dominant when you're comparing with jiu-jitsu. And when we take Ethiopia, for example, taekwondo is very dominant. In the North and Western African countries, however, jiu-jitsu is very well known. I think because of the judo basement, strong judo basement there. And Southern Africa's newaza, BJJ is also becoming more popular. And now to say jiu-jitsu is popular in Africa, it is very difficult questions, because jiu-jitsu is a kind of news, particularly BJJ is a kind of newcomer. So it is currently expanding in the southern, in South Africa, Mauritius, and also in Angola, and even we are seeing in Morocco and Tunisia, Algeria. They are working with the newaza, with BJJ, getting slowly, step by step, popularity.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I was drafting these questions for you, I was looking for statistics and data on some of this stuff. But to be honest, I couldn't find that information. I think the popularity. It's interesting you mentioned that it's BJJ is growing in different pockets of or different regions, that is, of that continent, and. And I don't mean to say that it's a competition between these styles. I don't know if it is. Maybe you do, but I know that there's issues with some sports potentially being more accessible than others. I'll give you an example. Here in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, there's a lot of jiu-jitsu dojos, Brazilian jiu-jitsu dojos, but there are not a lot of wrestling clubs, nor there are a lot of judo dojos. So it's interesting to see that it's a trend, as you were mentioning earlier on, that's happening at a global level. Next question for you, sir, is another tough question, Dr. Degineh. I'm asking you all these tough questions. So this is more of a scenario, I suppose. In terms of combat sports development, which model is more effective and why for developing a thriving combat sports community? A country that focuses on one particular combat sport, like let's say boxing or jujitsu, or a country that focuses on multi-combat sports at the same time? So that's boxing, jujitsu, freestyle wrestling, and mixed martial arts, for example. Follow-up question: should the focus be on specialization, or keeping it specializing in one art form or sport, or should it be, wide in scope, like multi-sports development at the same time? What's your opinion on this scenario?
Okay. I think, as you said, it is a tough question, but I will try to give my private opinion. I think multi-combat sports produce more talented athletes. If you look at Ethiopian judo and jiu-jitsu athletes, most of them have a Jeet Kune Do and taekwondo background.
Right.
So it is so easier to make it in jiu-jitsu or other martial art. But as a challenge, the challenge could be loyalty and more discipline to have in one art. From my experience, I started with judo and quickly turned it into jiu-jitsu. And parallel to that, I trained Tai Chi and also Eskrima. Then I decided for jiu-jitsu and stayed with jiu-jitsu until today. And when I come to your question, in this digitalization era,
right,
it's difficult to focus on just one preference, or we can say it is we live in the era of preferences. Just to give you an example, years ago there was only the preference to buy a casual shoes, street shoes, or sports shoes. Then comes a generation of preference, which means to choose many brands of sports shoes. When you decide to buy sports shoes, you have Nike, you have Adidas, you have Puma, you have Reebok, etc. Now, the digital millennial generation, we have countless preference only in one brand. For example, if you take Nike alone, you have you have the choice of 20 models,
Right.
So it is the same with the martial arts. We have to be open but attractive, a kind of open to be in this preference system, By the way, the old martial arts school, there were more family-oriented styles, there are a lot of rules even in the jiu-jitsu style, So that is my opinion.
I really like that analogy you just gave there of using when you speak of shoes and the different brands, and then having those brands not just selling sports shoes, but having multi models, kind of providing. Sorry, my phone went off. Kind of providing, that sort of diversity, I suppose, within one brand. It's really interesting. And the reason why I asked that is I guess when we look at a lot of sports development, at least when I look across the board, it seems that some countries are really, they're really strong in one art form, right? Because maybe they've invested heavily on that one art form. Like even if you look at, I'm not an expert on Ethiopian sports development, but if you ask anyone around the world what sports are Ethiopians known for, I guess long distance running would be one. Marathon, right? Running and I guess track in general, or athletics is the broader term. Like, you look at that and you're like, oh, that's interesting. And it's, have they invested heavily in that sport? Have they invested in other sports? But within the martial arts community, it's interesting that you're saying the multi-sport approach has more practicality. And I guess also too, just one thing, it also depends on maybe like if you're trying to develop competitors that want to compete, at the highest level of their sport, which is probably not necessary. Right? Like if, most martial arts that are practiced all over the world are practiced by recreationalists, right? It's only a small percentile that choose to pursue that long path towards elite level international competition. But no, I appreciate that answer. Moving on here to the next question, in terms of looking ahead, let's look, say, a decade from now, 10 years from now. Which regions in Africa do you think could lead the way in producing future world jiu-jitsu champions?
Yes, I think, as I said before, regions, the North African countries and Southern African countries are good starting. Western African countries also, I think they have a good opportunity, but in the middle and in the East African, we need to do more. I think African countries need more support from their Ministry of Sport or the authorities to develop this sport, and even to understand the circumstance how jiu-jitsu is trained in Africa. There are very few tatami mats. There is no judogi or none at all, or a few judogis. There is a lack of qualified coach. There is self-proclaimed masters. There is a fake certificate. The recognition of the international federation and the demand to fulfill the criteria is also another challenging. For example, it is difficult to compare a country like France Judo and Jiu-Jitsu Federation with 600,000 members, right, with an African country that has maybe only 3 clubs and 100 athletes. That's very challenging. The pressure from other martial arts and lack of information is also challenging. So if 25% of these criteria are met, so I see more champions. For example, we can take Angolan team in Jiu-Jitsu, BJJ. They develop amazingly because the government has given incentives, and the number of athletes get high. They bring to land the good coaches with international experts and so on. So it depends upon also the system and the sport infrastructure.
Very interesting. If I may ask a follow-up question, do you think our combat sports, are they valued? And again, this is a big question, and it's almost too general. But do you think combat sports are valued in Africa? Like, are they in terms of particularly combat sports that are grappling based, striking based? Well, all combat sports, quite frankly, are they valued in Africa? If so, how are they valued?
It is also a question of mindset. Most of African countries, for example, when we take to Ethiopia, the mindset for judo and jiu-jitsu is not developed. Even the mindset for martial arts sport are not well developed. They think people who are going to martial art, they will join gang, and they are not a good manner. They want to, they are a person of low character and so on.
Right.
So that is the way how people thinking. And even people are making a joke when I say I've got my PhD in economics, or for example, Dr. Degineh, and about jiu-jitsu, and they are making joke, how it is possible to get a PhD in fighting, in martial art, and so on, and. Everybody is not interested, not everybody, but many people, when you say I'm training jiu-jitsu, they cannot even spell correctly jiu-jitsu, They don't want also to they said, okay, you are training karate, and so on. It is
right.
Or or they say, okay, you are training taekwondo. But, you try to convince them. So, I mean, it's a mindset problem is in Africa. I mean, it is high.
Right. Now, I'm going to move on now to a very different topic, if you don't mind. It's the theme of technology and innovation in terms of emerging technology and innovation and the future of sports, quote unquote. We hear a lot about AI, artificial intelligence, Web3, big data, and the metaverse, and how that's going to be changing the physical and virtual landscape of sports. But how relevant are all these innovations to amateur combat sports, particularly on the continent of Africa?
Yeah, the question is tough.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. I know. I'm asking, in fact, one of the reasons why
I like also, as the challenging questions.
The reason, sorry, just for context, the reason why I'm asking is because I'm hearing these conversations are happening, across the board here on this side of the world, right? We talk about innovation in and the future of sports across the board. If it's in football, if it's in hockey, you name it. You're beginning to see the implementation of that, and even some amateur combat sports. Like in judo, I remember seeing that cool camera that they introduced, that 360 camera. Maybe I'm not getting the term right, but there's all these fascinating innovations that are happening in professional sports that are also trickling down in amateur sports. But I guess no one's asking this question within the scope of Africa. That's why I'm asking you this, and I understand it's probably not.
Yes. I mean, thank you. It is a good question. As I said before, we are living in the digitalization time. To say we are on the road to digitalization, and we have to be system compatible. Which means we need a change in mindset as well. You look, engineers are developing robots and autonomous driving. There are various apps that help us with fitness. Even I have a smartwatch, and this is really great. I can only recommend. The question is, whether AI, artificial intelligence, can do a better job than professional trainers. That is a question, I think. How it can change the training system effectively and efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in our sport, contact and grappling sport, you need a partner, and you need to learn to work with your opponent's energy and so on. It is a means of energy transfer. So with AI technology, I think you can learn the muscles, the steps, and you can make shadow training with the help of the artificial intelligence. I mean, I remember like in the days in the COVID, we made a lot of shadow training, thanks also the distance technology. But I'm afraid you need a person like robot. If you want to do a grappling, I mean, you probably they have developed a kind of robot. But coming to Africa, I see there is no different. Africa has the same possibilities as the rest of the world. The only question is who will develop the AI, and do have African countries access to the system. For example, look at the farmers in Africa or in Ethiopia. In one hand, plowing the field with very primitive means of production, but in another hand, they held their smartphone and making calls and asking for market price.
Right.
So we are just sometimes jumping the industry era directly to digitalization, and I see no problem to deploy, to adapt in Africa.
It's a fascinating topic, and I think that example you provided there, just the visual of that is brilliant. As you mentioned, they're plowing the field with these old forms of agricultural technology, but they're holding on to a smartphone, a mobile device, and engaging in business. It's brilliant. Now, moving on to this topic here. This is a random topic, but I thought I'd throw it in. Television. Reality television. Yes. What are your thoughts on Binyam Shibre and his participation in a mixed martial arts? For context, for people who don't know, Binyam Shibre, or Bini, is an Ethiopian martial artist and all-around creative person who is featured on a reality TV series called The 90-Day Fiancé. What are your thoughts on him as a martial artist and his MMA fight, which was broadcasted as recently on that episode?
I think I can give a very limited answer because 90-Day Fiancé, I saw this series until today. I have not the chance to watch the series, but I know about Binyam Shibre. I just saw a short video about him and was amazed by his performance. He's a very all-round person, as you said. He makes songs, dance, and acting also in this area, and has also a taekwondo background, I think, and is the first Ethiopian martial artist on the reality TV. It would be desirable if he could share his knowledge of martial arts in Ethiopia, and just in positive way, by using his popularity. It is very important when you are a popular person. Sometimes people are looking not only positive, but just a kind of negative highlights. So as long as he's doing this sport, he can use his positive popularity. But I'm not sure if he has done that before.
Now, I don't know how popular the show is in Europe. You're located in Berlin, Germany. So I don't know if, if you've seen the series a lot, but I can tell you here in North America, I'm in Canada, the series is quite popular.
Wow.
And and it's interesting too, because his match, you're right, he's very, he has a lot of potential. I was surprised to see how he dominated his opponent, I think he finished the match via rear naked choke, but even his striking, his kicking, were very, very dynamic. And then he climbed on top and he did a backflip, spectacular, backflip off the cage, which was cool to see, I must say. But it's interesting what you're saying in terms of seeing how he could use that popularity to potentially promote martial arts training in Ethiopia and in the US as well. I think he's a reality TV star, and I think, and also too, you mentioned on the creative side, he does music as well. So he's quite the talent. And me personally, I do hope to see more of him fighting in mixed martial arts. Now, moving on to another really interesting topic, I recently saw a video you had posted in regards to a seminar you held in Berlin, a jiu-jitsu seminar. Can you tell us a little bit about this jiu-jitsu seminar and what the purpose of the seminar was?
Okay, that was, I think, my first seminar with the regional state in Berlin. And it went very well. We had around 30 participants, and I think the title is Integration through Jiu-Jitsu. It is more about finding integrative commonness and working together in order to solve a kind of challenges by making this possible through diversity of our techniques. As I said before, we have a lot of throw, punch, kicks, locks, weapon techniques, and a lot of kind of diverse techniques, diverse methods. So that was the method, the highlights. And I used also, for example, training with closed eyes. That helps also to strengthen your self-confidence and a kind of your cognitive reaction up to sharp your reaction,
Right.
So exchanging techniques and training partners. We made also a lot of exchange techniques and training partners, and also working on complex issue in group and training the tasks of other groups. For example, I gave us a kind of task to other groups, different tasks, and they should exchange their techniques afterwards. The capital city TV, Berlin TV, was present at the training, and I received a good feedback, I think.
It sounded like a really interesting event, and you had spoken to me about it as well. And I'm curious, will you be doing more of these sorts of jiu-jitsu inclusion commonness seminars in Berlin or in Germany?
Oh, of course. I got a good resonance, and I will try to make probably in November also in regional state Brandenburg. A kind of seminar. There is a long, it's not a long list, but there is a list of requests now. I need, plenty of time. I have to prepare myself, and when you give a training, that should make also fun.
Right.
And you have to consider all these inputs in your program. And I think, yes, of course, I will do more such kind of trainings.
It sounds really cool because there seems to be a lot, wherever you look in the world, it appears to be like there's a lot of division amongst people. And I think, anything that brings people together in a positive, constructive way to problem solve, as you mentioned, is brilliant.
Yes.
Especially, sorry, go ahead.
Yes, sport is one of the best tool to bring, one of the best system to bring people together.
Absolutely.
Independable from race, POC, people of color, or gender, or your preference, or your religion.
Right.
You can bring, or your political attitude on the tatami or on the field. Everybody is equal. It is an instrument to bring people together and to build trust and friendship.
Absolutely, for sure. And I mean, I think we certainly need more of that togetherness worldwide. What are your thoughts? The last questions for you, sir. I appreciate your time and this interview. What are your thoughts on amateur mixed martial arts and its development and potential in Africa?
Yes, I think Africa has a great potential in it for any kind of sport. Africa has a big potential. I mean, this is because of its age structure. When you see 2/3 of Africans are under 30 years old, and they have really a good physical ability to learn very, very quickly, and they are also eager to learn, to absorb new things. So we see for example, in South Africa, in Nigeria, a strong MMA team that is even able to compete at international level, and also that they produce professional fighters, and the amateur or grassroots sport or a mass sport. When it comes to this segment, they are operating without advertisement, with a little fund, and
Right.
that is very challenging comparing to professional sports. So on one of the purpose, but we don't. It is very important not to forget one of the purpose should be also to aim to develop the sport for health, friendship, and peace and development. And if we compare these aims, these scopes with MMA, amateur sport in Africa, I think that will be possible to expand the sport in Africa.
That statistic you gave there is really interesting. Two-thirds are under the age of 30. Is that what you said? Two-thirds. That is what a young population when you think about it. It's massive. I wonder if that's probably the youngest in compared to other continents. I don't know if that's the case, but that's it could possibly be. Dr. Degineh, thank you very much for your time and for answering these questions. I know some of these questions were very tough, but I think they were they were very relevant.
It is like sparring, just with the questions.
That's right.
To have you, I mean, today we have totally different questions, and hopefully your audience like it. And I'm very glad also to know some comments, probably that helps me to improve my insight on your questions.
For sure.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to be here.
Thank you for joining us, and hoping to do it again. Have yourself a wonderful day over there in Berlin.
Thank you, Gamami.